Hello， 大家好，今天是我在澳洲的第3天。那今天的第一个行程呢，我们要去的是海德公园。那附近有一些有故事性的一些建筑物，那我们就过去看看。我们要去看有个景点叫做澳纽军团战争纪念堂。今天天气有点凉啊，风又很大。现在是没有什么阳光，但现在已经早上快要10点钟了。前面这边就是战争纪念堂。感觉这边在举办一些，好像是学校的毕业典礼。那么刚结束这边的景点，好，那我们结束了这个战争纪念堂这个景点，那下一站我们要去的是圣母主教座堂，就在这个战争纪念堂再往前走的这个地方。那我们刚刚看完圣母主教座堂，那下一站我们要前往的是雪梨歌剧院，是这边雪梨最有地标性的一个地方。那雪梨歌剧院还会穿过海德公园这边的一个喷泉，可以看到一个很指标性的一个建筑物，圣母主教座堂，然后海德公园、雪梨塔，很好记。那今天呢，去雪梨歌剧院会用一个在 KKday 买的门票，它会有一些导览跟餐点可以使用。
可以吧？
雪梨跨年就是在这边放年。
那这边就是环形码头，这边有轻轨，有接驳船。
Look at this.
Wow.
Seems as if you were to get 3 people together. You can hold that piece of paper. Gentlemen, yes. But Nell, you miss out on a piece of paper. So what we're going to do is go for a bit of a walk around the area known as the Rocks.
Yeah.
We're going to work out why they call it the Rocks. We're going to look at the story of the place and see if we can put some markers in the sand so you can join the dots later to work out how this place came to be. Nell, where are you from?
Vancouver, Canada.
Good, I get to use my Canadian joke.
Okay, what is it?
Okay, here it is. I hope you guys are going to get it. We'll see how we go. How did Canada get its name?
I don't know, eh?
That's it. I don't know, eh? See, there were 3 men sitting around wondering what to call that big land. They decided to put every letter of the alphabet into one brown paper bag, pull some letters out, and the first guy reaches in and goes, look, I got a C, A. And the next guy gets an N, A. And then the third guy gets a D, A. Canada. Because apparently in Canada they all say A at the end of every sentence.
Sure.
Sure, A?
Sorry.
Sorry, A. Well, we've all got our quirky vocabulary, don't we?
Yeah.
You know, in Australia we put mate on the end of everything. G'day mate, how are you? Mate is good. And we tend to abbreviate everything, to make things shorter. So surnames, if your name is Johnson, you become Jono. You know, we don't really want to use the full words most of the time. So anyhow, we'll talk about language, we'll talk about things. What is it that you're particularly interested in, Gemma? Just the 3 of us here, or 4 of us. We can basically tailor it, if we can, to suit you. What do you want? You want to go to a photographic spot and take pictures?
Yes, I photograph also like history is of.
Yeah, great.
The history, the story
Yes.
of the rocks.
Yeah, beautiful. We'll certainly unpack that. Well, we can, if you want to take photographs, and it's not a bad sort of a day, we might go up to Observatory Hill, which is the highest point from here. And it's a lovely outlook, so we can go up and then come back, and I can blend the story and the history. Let's go to a high point, Observatory Hill, and we can pick up some of the threads of the story on the way. So let's go and do that. What we need to work out first is why they call it the Rocks. Odd name. It's got its own postcode. Rocks, let's go see.
Where are you from? From Taiwan. From Taiwan? Yes, Canada, right? Canada, but I'm originally from the Philippines, so
Oh.
it's pretty close.
Wow.
I've been to Taipei, but
Yeah, you've been to
Yeah.
Taipei. Can you say Chinese?
no.
Tell me something about yourself.
Okay.
What do you do?
It's my third day.
Third day?
Yes. And this is my first time in Australia, so
Me too, me too.
this is fresh experience.
I just landed this morning, but I'm only going to be here until Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. Until Tuesday, my flight is.
One of the great things we've got, of course, is not a large population. You know, it's 25 million people in the entire continent of the country. You know, how many people in Taiwan?
23
20. There you are.
Millions.
millions, 23
Yeah.
millions.
So you've got everyone's crowded into one small island.
Yes.
Well, we're an island too, but you know we've got an enormous amount of
Yeah.
space.
It's a continent.
It is a continent. Well done. Now I like to run a quiz on my tours. You score points if you know some stuff.
I got one.
You got a point. Well done, Nell. Very good. Let's ask ourselves this question: why do they call this place the Rocks?
Made out of rocks and
A lot of
stones
rocks.
and whatever.
Well, exactly. So there's a literalness to Sydney. You know, everything is as it sounds. The best example I can give you is the fact we built a bridge in Sydney over the harbour, and we only think to call it the Sydney Harbour Bridge. So the literalness of the name is evidenced by the presence of the rock. It's sandstone. It's millions of years old, and this place, well, who knows the story of this place? Score another point, Nell.
I gave up. I don't know.
I'm having no idea. Okay, so in 1788, England sends convicts over here. Sydney was established
Oh,
by the
right.
British as
I
a
remember.
prison colony. Right? Now, in the end, well, we're still tied to England. Yeah, I'm being attacked by a leopard.
Exile.
An exile, exactly right. Stomp him out. We're still directly connected to England. The King of England, Charles III, is technically still the head of our nation.
Right.
We remain a constitutional monarchy. Now, you know, Canada
Similar to Canada,
is
mostly.
part of the
Yeah,
Commonwealth, but
mostly ceremony.
yes, exactly. So, but you know, the king is not regarded as the head of Canada, but the king here is. You know, our prime minister had to go to well, he didn't have to, but he chose to go to the coronation and swear allegiance. And I don't think your prime minister swore allegiance to the king.
Right. I mean, there's I forgot the name of the title of the position, but that one is like the second, whatever, the representation of the king in Canada.
Well, there's a Governor General, is that it?
Governor General.
Yeah,
I
well,
think that's the term.
we've got that here. But again, I don't know whether Canada has the same sort of constitutional connection that we still do.
Just
I
not.
think you've broken the shackles a little
Yeah.
bit. They went to Cape Town, and then they came all the way across the Indian Ocean and finally to Sydney. Now, why did they choose this spot? Because another Englishman called James Cook had sailed up the east coast of the continent in 1770. So it's 18 years before the convicts arrived. Cook sails up the east coast, and it was Mr. Cook who sticks the flag of England in the soil and claims it for England. But if you look at the map, the name is interesting. New Holland. See, there were Dutch navigators and explorers who had touched the continent before Mr. Cook. The first known European to have touched the Australian continent was a man called Willem Janszoon, who came in 1606 and explored and drew a map of the northern part of the continent. A few years later, another Dutchman called Dirk Hartog mapped the western coast. Some years later, another Dutchman called Abel Tasman, you've been to Tasmania, it's named after him,
Tasman.
navigated and mapped the southern coastline.
Right.
So the continent was known to the Europeans the Dutch particularly. Now here's a question for my non-existent quiz. Why aren't we speaking Dutch? Why didn't the Dutch claim the continent for themselves?
Because the British took over.
No, because they were here before.
Right.
1606, the 1600s the Dutch were exploring it, but they chose not to claim it for their kingdom because the northern, the western and the southern part of the continent is different to this. It's dry, barren and harsh. When you look at it you think, you know, it's not worth having. The east coast is green and lush and verdant with flowing rivers. And so the Dutch, having landed north, west and south, took back the message to their own kings, don't bother.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Mr. Cook in 1770 sees this east coast and goes, this is worth having. So he thinks it reminds him so much of South Wales that Mr. Cook calls it New South Wales. That's what they did. If you're from Holland, you find new land, you call it New Holland. Cook calls it New South Wales. So anyhow, European explorers were aware of the continent, but no one had claimed it. They're used, from a historical perspective, the explorers from the empire-building nations claimed land under the cover of a doctrine called the Doctrine of Discovery. If you were the first European to discover some land, well then you were entitled to claim it if no one else had. But of course, the land had already been discovered. Who by? The Aboriginals. They've been here for thousands of years. So, you know, Mr. Cook didn't discover it, Mr. Jansoon didn't discover it, it had already been discovered. Sadly, the Aboriginal people, same thing happened to everyone in North America and Canada. You know, the native people of most nations had their land taken from them.
Right.
And we are still coming to terms with the impact of the colonisation of Aboriginal land. But I do want to acknowledge this is Gadigal land. The Gadigal people of the Eora Nation.
So how do you call it again?
Gadigal. G-A-D-I-G-A-L. Gadigal. Gadigal land, yeah. So they are a clan that were the traditional custodians of this part of the world. And in Sydney there are 27 clans that make up the Eora Nation. So yeah, like in Canada, like in America, there were the native nations existing, and they do still exist today because there are Aboriginal people, you know, still around today. We didn't kill them all off, although
Fortunately.
Yeah, fortunately. But sadly, there are some elements of our story that really are a bit uncomfortable for a lot of people, you know. So we are still trying to come to terms with the story of this place. Not Dutch, British. That's why we speak English. But there's literalness to the rocks. And we're going to walk right through the rocks and head up to Observatory Hill, so we can all take a lovely photograph. Come on.
Yeah, thanks.
But even as we walk, I can talk. It's called multitasking for men. My wife is surprised I can do this sort of stuff. But look at me go. So the convicts, when they arrived here in 1788, well, they worked on the rocks, literally, to break the rocks into blocks to build buildings. So some of the oldest buildings in the area made of sandstone that have been convict cut. We'll look at some. Derivative of an Aboriginal word.
Wow.
With all sorts of benefits. But we've got another, this remains the focus of business activity here, certainly most of the major hotels. That's historical. The Aboriginal people had had over generations. And every one of those shells is calcium carbonate limestone. So they took the shells off the beach and they crushed them up into little bits and they added them to the mortar mix. And you can still see the flecks of shells in some parts. Decorations coming into Sydney. There was another Sydney station that would run a series of flags up the flag. They would be identified by this signalman who would put similar flags up the flagpole, and there were several other flagpoles up the river.
Plan to do that later.
We've been everywhere. We're continuing our journey by going to New York.
Okay.
New York subway. There we go.
Wow.
They said they only clean the subway once every 100 years. The last one, the most recent one, was because of COVID. If not for COVID, it would not have been clean.
You probably wouldn't have been cleaned yet.
Yeah.
Well, there's you saw up on the hill the man laying out the cones. So they use the environment for physical training, and all these footprints here, well, not all of them. Some people cheat, but a lot of people do parkour. You know,
right.
urban
Jumping
running,
everywhere.
So they run, jump, do a backflip. And so many of the footprints are from people doing their training.
Okay. Wow.
But a lot of other people just walk past, take the shoe off and go.
I would prefer that.
Yeah, me too. Large as Macquarie River, Macquarie Fields. It just goes
University.
on. Macquarie University. You know, the Macquarie Bank. If you go to Darling Harbour, you'll see their headquarters, Macquarie Bank. Now, the Macquarie Bank has as its corporate symbol. So this is Argyle Street. We walked up it, and now we get to walk over it. Here, along with goods, and people establish trading businesses. Get four walls and a roof over the top. Now these are a bit more sophisticated, because these see that there is sandstone rock. Weekend we see market stalls being established. So this area is awash with people selling goods tonight and all over the weekend. Let's take a little step. It's kind of innocuous, but she is 160,000 convicts are sent out, where there are free settlers coming too.